Oh. All right. Welcome, everybody. Oh, it's one of those nights. I actually had plenty of time to get stuff ready. Did that help me tonight? No! Because my overhead camera decided it was going to take a dump just minutes before the show starts. And now my mouse is playing up. Oh, dear. This is not good. I blame Al Qaeda. Oh dear. Oh, it looks like my video's getting ready to crash. Isn't that lovely? The thing is, I can't reboot. Yeah, it may be Antifa's fault. Let's see if I can find something that'll fix this problem. You know what? I may not have a show tonight. Because literally my browser is just, there's nothing in OPS that's hogging. Pop music. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for it at all. I am going to reboot this computer, and if I can get back in, then I'll do a show. If not, we'll see. Do I have sound? Do I have camera? Do I have... No 80s. Pop, 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 pop music. Oh dear. Oh, Lord have mercy. That was a rocky start. Yes, I am back. And it seems like things are working now. So, how's everybody doing? Fuck off, David. It normally looks like 2010. My camera, I don't know why. I'm going to have to investigate, but I have one camera that's not working up here. That's my green screen camera. So my green screen next to me is just dead. So I'll have to figure that out between now and next show. I do have a fan next to me, which is kind of amazing if you think about it, because most people can't hear my fan going. Oh my God. But if I switch over to my other camera, which I'm going to be using for my green screen camera. Which this is it. Look at how sweaty I am. Oh my God, it's hot here. Anyways, let's get on with it. Let's start over.
Welcome to the Tea Party with Marty Abernathy, a show by an ultra-feminine, meek, shy, totally unopinionated trans woman that seeks to listen to both sides and does not make fun of TERFs. You've listened to the show, right? You still want me to say this? Okay. Here's your host, Marty Abernathy.
Hey, all right. God damn it. The one good thing is I have everything backed up. So like my playlist and everything, it's just a matter of getting them happy. And then we'll get on with this. I have to think about where I am though. Help me, Jesus, help me. Oh my God. That's what it is. I blame Jesus. It's Antifa or it's Jesus. I'm not sure which. All right. So I did save my playlist.
Hello, I just joined.
So I want to pull this music all the way down because this is kind of hard to hear this guy. But I want to see if I can get it so I can see the chat as well, because it's important to hear this fella. Let's do this. Let's go over to my green screen. Say, here I am. I hate it because it doesn't look the way I want to. Anyways, let's see if this audio. This is talking about the general strike that everybody's talking about in October.
Hello, I just joined the General Strike Discord because I'm trying to get some answers because nobody seems to be answering on TikTok. So, turns out the organizers that originally put this strike together have left because they did not do the math of how this will work, what their demands actually could accomplish or couldn't accomplish. So there's just random people trying to organize this at this point, and that's why we don't know who these people are or where they're from. So just I'll keep you updated if I find more information.
And that I find is a little interesting. Like, first off, you don't know who's organizing this. Second, it just reminds me of the general strike that American Johnson was trying to pursue. It doesn't have a lot of organization. The thing is, you can't just say, "Oh, let's have a general strike." It's got to have lots of planning, lots of cooperation between leftist groups. I mean, it's not something you just throw together. It's not a YouTube campaign. It's not a TikTok campaign. It's something that takes some serious organizing. And it's just like, really? Anyways, it doesn't seem like people are serious about it. So yeah. I did think I wanted to talk a bit about some vaccine stuff. This is from CNN.
If vaccines work, why are vaccinated people still banned from living normal lives? Honestly, what's the answer to that? It doesn't make any sense at all. If the vaccine is effective, there is no reason for people who have received the vaccine to wear masks or avoid physical contact. So maybe it doesn't work and they're simply not telling you that.
Fox host Tucker Carlson is one of many in the right-wing media casting doubt on life-saving COVID vaccines, even as unvaccinated.
I bet you Tucker Carlson is vaccinated. I can almost guarantee you he's vaccinated.
Americans continue to drive up COVID case numbers. Let's talk about this now with former Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron. He is now the co-founder of Front Page Live. And I wonder, I think I know the answer, but I want to know from you, why are hosts like Tucker Carlson doing this?
It's about ratings.
Just money.
And ratings ultimately become revenue. And that's the name of the game. Whoever gets the most clicks on social media makes the most money, gets the most fame, gets the most attention. And that type of activity is not journalism. It's not news. It's gaslighting.
That is so fucking true. But this is something that isn't just, I mean, this is the media now. This is what happens when you don't pay reporters. No. Let me take that back, because there's two different kinds of people that are on television. There are in news. There are reporters and there are journalists, and there's a big distinction. Journalists actually do some work, create their content. Literally, reporters just spew talking points that have been given to them. But this is creating content in a way where it's lowest common denominator. You're playing to the fears of these people. That's what it boils down to.
It's propaganda. I mean, just last week, new infections went up 70%. And according to the CDC, the NIH, which oversees the CDC.
But you can't trust them because it's a conspiracy.
It is absolutely 99.5% of those infections are people who haven't gotten vaccinated. I mean, come on. Anybody who disputes that sort of stuff is putting people's lives at risk and potentially killing them.
What was
the sad bit about that is that they don't care. They really, really don't care. That it's somebody that is so crass that, and they don't care that people are going to die. because they're going to have the #1 rated show on Saturday night, Sunday night, Friday night, whatever. They just don't give a fuck. But at the very least, at least some of these experts are talking back. I mean, the thing is, I keep thinking of Carl Sagan when he in the Demon Haunted World, where he talks about how this happens, how people believe in UFOs, how people believe in things that don't have any rational basis. It's not grounded in fact. And when it comes up, at least Fauci is coming on and doing something about it. Check this out.
What was made abundantly clear from this hearing was just how fed up and frustrated some public health officials have become with efforts to undermine the public's trust in medical experts. Senator Rand Paul accused Dr. Fauci of lying to Congress about Wuhan.
I mean, this is literally the portion. This is like the journalist version of that. In a congressman, they'll do anything. They'll do anything to look a certain way. They don't care about the truth. And this guy, Rand Paul, whatever you think of him, he was schooled to be a physician, to be a doctor, an ophthalmologist, yes, but a doctor, none the same. And he knows what he's saying is bullshit, or he knows what he's saying he doesn't have the knowledge for. Anyways.
What was made abundantly clear from this hearing was just how fed up and frustrated some public health officials have become with efforts to undermine the public's trust in medical experts. Senator Rand Paul accused Dr. Fauci of lying to Congress about Wuhan lab funding. Here was some of Dr. Fauci's response.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly, and I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator. You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Yeah, that's not who you are, NBC. You're getting it for clicks, doing the same thing. So I mean, I definitely let's not give them a commercial. But I think it's awesome that, I mean, because whatever you're going to say about Fauci, he's a professional. He's a professional, and unless you have the same type of, and you're asking him pointed questions that a virologist or someone along those lines is going to ask, what credibility do you have? You know? David said, good work, that man. He did good work in the Trump White House. You got to be a fucking awesome individual to actually do that. So kudos to him for that. Anyways. So we have some more kooky stuff. Apparently, Christian rhetoric is so weird. This next clip is from Jack Hibbs, and apparently he thinks that if you're an evolutionist, you have to be against gay marriage. Come on.
When two people of the same sex get together, it's out of sheer wanton lust and pleasure only.
Woohoo! Yay! For lust. Lust is awesome.
For self.
Yeah. Yeah. Sex. What? All right. Again, awesome.
Nothing comes of it.
Enjoyment, love, connection, commitment, orgasms, sexual fulfillment.
No life can come from it. No family can come from it.
Here's the funny thing is lesbians can have children, and on the whole, studies have shown those children are better than cisgender parents, cisgender heterosexual parents. But do continue.
Let me insert this. If you're an evolutionist, you have to be against same-sex union. If you're an evolutionist, and by the way, where have been the evolutionists on this topic? Because listen, if you're an evolutionist, what is one of the statements? It's the survival of the fittest, right? And in evolutionary theory, the survival of the fittest has to procreate. That's why you watch, they study all the animals, and there's the big elk, you know, the big bull elk. And what does he have to do every spring? He has to take on the young elks, beat them up. And the strong one, by natural selection, the strong one survives. He impregnates all the other elkies. Does, elkettes, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a truer statement. I don't know. He hasn't spoken in this whole thing. First off, there doesn't need to be an evolutionary reason for it, because it is. But there are plenty of things. Procreation is not the only thing that moves evolution along.
And so he looks over his harem, and they're all producing babies, and he's like, yes. And evolutionists say, right on. That's it. See, it's an action. But if evolution's true, then there would be no such thing as homosexuality.
Oh, there are plenty of variations that don't lead to procreation.
Because over the last 400 trillion, billion, zillion, quadbillion, zillion, million years, evolution would have washed that out.
No. First off, human beings haven't been around for that long. Secondly, it's not a it's a behavior. There's no gay gene that they've shown so far. It's not genetic. So it's a mixture of social and biological, but at the same time, I mean, just making this argument, this is for, this talk is for a Christian, and I know this because I used to be one. This is for somebody that knows just enough science to go, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. It's, you don't know about evolution. You don't understand evolution. You may have gotten through second semester high school biology. Me. And well, I did go on to a medical degree, but it's one of those things that this just makes no sense to someone that understands science and understands how evolution works. It doesn't work like this. It's not all about procreation.
Homosexuality, LGBTQ actions prove the existence of God. Because God's word says this would be some of the outcome and actions of the last days.
Yeah. What's funny is he's preaching from the book of Romans. What was going on with pedophilia? Yeah, end days, and that's what's funny too. Is Christians call the end days everything after Jesus basically is an end of days. So yeah, there you go, and it's crazy how some of these right wingers think that the Biden administration of all people is communist. Jordan Jones, being gay is not real. That would make sexuality not real, because the last time I checked, heterosexuality is a sexuality.
The Economist publishes bizarre story bemoaning lack of diversity.
There we go. God damn it.
In Italian Squad. Is it that bizarre? Is it that strange? I mean, hell, they hate white people. It's white genocide. Like,
white genocide.
Yeah, they're going to write articles.
White genocide. Here we go.
Bemoaning.
You know it's going to be good when they talk about white genocide. There's nothing like on the edge of extinction than white people.
The fact that white people still exist until we're all gone, unless we stand up for ourselves.
Unless we stand up and fight. Oh my God. Paul Joseph Watson, that is an amazing source.
Unvaccinated Americans should not be allowed to work or have access to children, says Sebelius. Former Obama administration Health and Human.
By the way, what motherfucker visits a website and then prints it out to read? Have a computer screen, have a camera on top of that computer screen, and when you're looking at it, it will look like your words are there. Or better yet, pay somebody to put these words on a teleprompter. God, it's like you people don't know how to do
Services
this shit.
Secretary Kathleen Sebelius said Tuesday on CNN's Out Front that Americans who have not received a coronavirus vaccine should not be allowed to go to work or have access to children.
And what the... What is it? What is it with yes, Floof, right out of the gate with the white genocide, can't even keep their Nazism in their pants. What is it with this fucking shot of the paper itself? Like, who thought, what I'm really going to do is I'm going to focus in on your hands holding a paper, showing that you don't. Basically, this is grandpa internet. Honey, can you print this out? I'm going to use it on my show.
And should be limited on where they're allowed to go. Well, I think she should be killed.
That's sensible.
Widow of McAfee releases his suicide note, slams it as suspicious. The eccentric businessman. Let me stop right there. Let me go back here. I want to explain something. I think a lot of these people deserve to die. I think most of the people in the Biden administration are treasonous, genocidal maniacs who are using their power to disenfranchise, dispossess, and demonize the people that they are planning to literally genocide.
This is like the equivalent of the entire thing with the whole the government. Obama's going to take your guns. Like what he just said there There's absolutely nothing that Biden's done. I know Jordan Joan P. Look who's talking. Yeah. Look at what fucking Trump did at the border. I mean, you can go down the line. But like literally, it's not even they don't even hide this shit. Like, and they are the ones that have fucking been running everything. And when they lose an election, this is how they react.
I think that's a pretty serious concern in this country, and drastic measures will have to be taken to rectify the
We lost an election. This must be rectified.
Situation. But what would happen if somebody just went out and killed General Milley? What would happen if just some insane info warrior was inspired by me to go out and assassinate? Would it make anything better? Would it really? Of course not. Of course not. Make everything worse. It would give them all the justification they need to bring about the most draconian measures that they can possibly imagine. So
like kick you off YouTube? Oh, wait.
When I say things like this, I'm being hyperbolic and I'm being intense because I'm just confronted.
I just realized that what I said could get me arrested and charged with treason. I'm going to walk that back and say, it's just a joke. It's just a joke.
Day after day with this nonsense, and it drives me absolutely insane. I'm just expressing frustration.
I don't mean, I know I just said that you should kill Biden, but it was just a joke.
At the moment, but you have to.
I'm LARPing.
Think strategically, and you have to understand that what is required is massive organization, massive awareness as to what's going on, and massive changes so the American people can actually have our rights looked after and our concerns dealt with.
This honestly, this reminds me so much of how cis women that are TERFs act. They're more concerned about this made up kind of fear rather than trans women's actual safety. And this guy is more worried about this no proof fucking this stripping of freedoms, and they're gonna have us they're gonna genocide us. No proof, no actual proof. What has Biden done outside of COVID stuff that has done anything to change the United States even remotely? What policy? They can't say. Because they're not fucking out on the streets, turning protests into riots, or black bagging people and putting them in vans. Is that what you're upset about?
And so, no, please, for the love of God, don't go out and do random violence. Don't attack these people. When I'm expressing this stuff, I'm just venting frustration.
Don't kill them. I don't want to lose my job.
But you have to think strategically.
Think strategically. Don't just randomly do it. Strategize it.
Have to really, understand the situation that we're in and understand that any violent, individual, outrageous action will only negatively impact us, as happens around the world constantly. That's
now look how scared he is now. Now he's afraid of his own words.
Why they're setting up things like the Governor Whitmer plot is so they can justify their extreme measures. So I'm just venting here. I'm just frustrated. I don't want anybody to die. I don't want anybody to be killed. I want to take control of the governmental system so we can legally and lawfully set things right and hold people to account and punish them for their very apparent misdeed. We'll be back.
So, David asked a good question. And let's have a look, David, actually. Because I think this was probably on InfoWars. American Journal Morning, I'm guessing. Yeah. Join us Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 Central Standard Time. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's from Free Speech Systems. So, yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah. Anyways. I'm guessing this is part of InfoWars. It probably was broadcast live. Anyways, but he's not the only one. I mean, these guys keep doing this shit. And this is another one from Right Wing Watch, but it's the same thing.
Let's stop being nice about these people. Look, I'm guilty of being too diplomatic and too nice. These are not good people. They're not good people.
They're evil, and
They're evil, and they're wicked.
And they want us dead.
And they want us dead. Let's get it out on the table here.
They called us assassins.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's get it out on the table. They're wicked, they're evil, they're not good.
Is that the former press secretary of Trump? The blonde woman?
And they want us dead. Is that clear enough?
It's clear as day.
I say let's meet at Gettysburg. Get this over with.
Hey, listen, this is the times we're in. I mean, this is the reality. These people are ruling and reigning over us.
A bunch of sissified lefties would never come out and meet real men.
This is what I find is hilarious. Like, if this guy ever came upon Antifa and some anarchists, some black bloc anarchists, he would be pissing his pants.
Never. They're cowards. They're a bunch of cowards.
Yeah, that's why you're out on the fucking street. That's why you're in a studio collecting money from Christians, giving them true news instead of taking your hard ass out on the streets and fucking fighting people. Yeah, Mr. Badass. So ridiculous.
They never would come out and face real men.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a real man. Please.
And real patriots that love this country.
That's right. They'll never do it.
Nope.
They're nothing but stinking cowards. I'm fed up with putting up with their crap. I'm a free man. I live in a free country.
I live in a
and
free
men
country.
died for this country.
Yeah, so did oh my God.
And on my watch, in my generation, we're watching it being taken from us, and
what's being taken?
We're too lazy to stop it.
Stop it then. Go for it, man. Go for it. Come on, Rick. Out on the street. Go for it, dude. Put your money where your mouth is. But you won't. Because you're just doing this for dollars and to piss people off and get them riled up. But you are not going to do a damn thing. You're going to sit there, oh, I'm a real man. Real man.
We ought to be ashamed of ourselves.
You should be ashamed of yourselves for doing this show.
We ought to be ashamed that we're allowing these cowards to take our country.
Who's taking? Who's? Oh God, David, that is brilliant. This reboot of Taken seems lame. Yes. Poor man's Liam Nielsen.
We don't want to be inconvenienced with putting down a communist revolution.
Oh, wow. A communist revolution.
Well, too bad it's here.
Yeah, it's here. And
Can you explain? That's what the biggest part of this is I just wish that somehow people could get in front. One of the hardest things for me to take in all this, especially even with politicians, it's like people do not ask the questions that need to be asked. Like when somebody makes a stupid fucking statement like this, there's obvious questions that should be asked and they never get asked by anyone. What exactly are you losing? What's being
if the people
taken away?
don't do something very, very soon, you're going to end up in a concentration camp.
You're going to end up in a concentration camp. How are you going to end up in a concentration camp? Please explain. It's just ludicrous. It makes no sense.
And after that, you're going to end up in a grave.
Oh, I wish. But the Christians, man, they're just coming right out now and just literally just saying shit that
the church was meant to rule and reign in the earth.
Can you give me a Bible verse for that, please?
What happens when the church is not apostolically uniformed? We don't have the true mission of what Jesus said in Matthew 28:19, which was, go ye out into all the world. Go ye into government.
If I remember correctly, Christ said, sell all your things and follow me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing that. Maybe I'm forgetting. Where he said run for office.
Go into education. Go into economy.
Go and treat your slaves fairly.
Go into sports and entertainment. Go into media. Go into religion.
I think that's the one thing that he did say go into.
And teach.
But only if you're a man. No women teachers.
All nations. And baptize them. That means we should be baptizing presidents.
What if they're already baptized? There's never been an atheist president except for Donald Trump.
Look, y'all gotta love this. This is why President Donald Trump gave his life to the Lord Jesus Christ. Because he says, when I first met him, he was like, you people have a lot of power. But have you heard him lately? He prays in the name of Jesus. Our job in these tours is to light a fire back up under the church again to get.
Don't you? I liked it a lot better and thought it was a lot better for Christians and for democracy in the United States when Christians and the state stayed separate. But now this is it's really gross.
Get you out of the pew, get you out of the chair, and get you back into the world. It's
Didn't Jesus say, or maybe it was Paul, about being of the world?
time to get up and get back into the world. We are the next president of the United States. We are the next. Look, I ran for Congress in 2020 and they did steal my election. That's why I'm running again in 2022. But
Yeah, they stole his election. Just like Trump.
taking the power.
But the blue waves, the blue wave that was supposed to happen. No. That wasn't. No. Oh, Jonathan. Is Thomas Smith trying to get these folks? Well, maybe he can go after Roseanne Barr.
You know what God told me? He said, I want Roseanne, calm down because I have a mission for you. I said, what is it, Lord? You know I'll do it. If I have proved that to you by now, even if it gets me fired and in trouble, you know I'll do it if you put it rightly to me. You've seen that. So he says, yes, Roseanne, I do. I have something I want you to do. I want you to tell people
that you're making Nazi cookies? No. Is that no.
that I am mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Is this a remake of Network? I haven't seen this one.
He said, you tell them, Roseanne, that's what I have to say to them right now. And if they can't figure out why, at least tune in to what. See what is happening right in front of your eyes, and Roseanne will then explain it, as will Dr. Bishop Larry will explain why. If you're any kind of
Is she in bed?
conservative like me, they blacklist you. They have blacklisted me for years because I wanted to talk about, the things that ain't right.
Yes.
And they don't want to hear it. They're censors, just like all the rest of them. Fascist censors on the left and the right. Listen, anybody that is...
You guys are the fucking best. The worst Rosanna episode, or Roseanne episode ever. The worst Roseanne episode ever. Oh dear.
It's not going to let me speak.
That's right.
Fuck them. Just fuck them.
I think I'm going to make that into a sound effect. Fuck them. Just fuck them. She's saying this to a bishop. Some bishop. Yeah. Nothing like a good fuck them. Oh, anyways. So one of the things in all this, like when you buy things like this, when you buy the bullshit from this, one of the things that has really it's really got me thinking about this is how do people believe the bullshit that these people are selling? Why? How? And it goes back to what I was saying before. I could go out and get some random geek. I can't get a job in this capitalist system. Censorship. But what it comes back to, it's ignorance. It's ignorance. This next clip, it made me think a lot about when I was in high school and what I learned.
Listen, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know much about foreign policy, but I don't know any country that has been doing very well after America has decided to intervene. Whenever there's any sort of big issue going on in a country, we decide to manufacture the consent to go in there and destroy their country and take their resources. You want to say we build hospitals and schools? Yeah, after we've torn them the fuck down.
That's not even true. I mean, we literally decimated, and I said this back in 2000 and I think I said it was in 2006. Maybe it was before then, but I said what we should be doing in Iraq is rebuilding infrastructure. People are going to hate us and here we are 15 years later, and we haven't done any of that. There's still people in Iraq to this day that don't have electricity 24/7. You literally can be a teenager that was born when the war started, and you've never had electricity every single fucking day of your life for 24 hours. How do you think that's going to fucking radicalize people? But anyways, we're not rebuilding in these countries. We're not rebuilding in Syria. We're not rebuilding in Afghanistan. We're not. If we went into these countries, when I say we, I mean the United States. When the United States would go into these countries, if the countries came out better than when you went in, I'm sure the people would be a lot more happy with the United States. But anyways, proceed. Retro waves.
We are not the world's peacemakers. And the fact
I always loved that when I was a kid. You would always hear that we are the world's policemen. And I'm going to steal this from a Twitter post, but if we're the world's policemen, we're Derek Chauvin. Yeah. So, anyways.
The fact that so many people believe that. Just pick up a fucking book and read the fucking history of this country.
Here's the thing with that. There's a problem with that. Even, well, at least the history books that I was taught from, you didn't learn the actual history. You didn't learn the history of coups in Latin America that the United States funded, oversaw, gave money, funding, support to. You didn't see American support of Pinochet in Chile. You didn't, I mean, fucking brutal dictatorships, Guatemalan death squads. You didn't see that. Those things weren't in textbooks. Hell, most of what I know coming out of my shell and learning separate histories, it was because one of my girlfriends at the time gave me a book called The People's History of the United States, and it made me realize, fuck, this is not what I read about, and this is not what I didn't get the whole story in U.S. history. People believe basic history that they learn in high school, and that isn't in the United States, and that isn't it. Just how Jordan Joan P says a lot of the history books are whitewashed, and all the struggle. I mean, people don't know. Christopher Columbus was he was a great explorer. He was a slaver. He literally genocided an entire tribes of Indian of native peoples, the Arawaks. Totally, by the time that he was out of there, they were gone. So, like, the history is just erased. They don't talk about it. And that's what they're wanting to do right now with critical race theory. They don't want to talk about the history of racism and how it impacts today. It's like they want this narrow teaching. But it's not surprising.
Read the history of other countries. Because I can almost guarantee the countries that you think are doing so bad have a history of being imperialized. Get this fucking lie out of your head that you've been taught in middle school that we're just spreading fucking democracy.
You can't spread democracy. It's not a condiment that you put on a piece of bread.
We suck these countries dry. And then we educate our youth from the point of view of the people that are doing it. Come on.
I mean,
Fox News has just jumped the shark, man. Watch this segment about Ted Cruz talking about the Cuban protest.
Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about, though. This is the kind of shit that your average white American is seeing on television.
So my family, like so many millions of other Cuban families, have seen the brutal oppression of communism firsthand. And I got to say, watching these images, watching Cuban people in the streets, risking their lives, when you stand up and protest.
Wait, why have they blurred out the messages on those signs in a segment about the protests against the Cuban government? Well, TikTok user Tibel_politics, shout out to them, found an undoctored image of the signs. And what do they say? The one on the left says, Las calles son de los revolucionarios. The streets belong to the revolutionaries, a common saying in Cuba and something that President Miguel Díaz-Canel often says himself. Meanwhile, the one behind says, Viva la revolución cubana, long live the Cuban Revolution. So what did Fox do? Rethink their bad segment entirely? Or even just change the footage? No, some editor thought, let's just blur out the signs so none of our Latino audience get cognitive dissonance and keep it because it's too good. Unreal. Just unreal.
It's not at all surprising, though. It's not at all surprising. This is what they do. It's a propaganda network. It's not a news network.
Growing acknowledgement these days that the teaching of American history, and especially black history here at home, has been bad, incomplete, whitewashed. But our knowledge and understanding of America's history on the international stage, and especially with our neighbors to the south, is even worse. Take Haiti, now in crisis again after the president was assassinated in his home earlier this month. The Washington Post editorial board reacted by calling for a swift and muscular international intervention in Haiti, led, of course, by the United States military. No mention of the fact that Haiti's first elected president, the leftist priest Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was toppled in a coup orchestrated by Haitian officers, some of who were on the CIA's payroll, or that Aristide was overthrown again in a second 2004 coup, whose instigators were supported by elements of the George W. Bush administration, or that Haiti was militarily invaded and occupied by the United States between 1915 and 1934. Take Cuba. In an appearance on Fox News to discuss the growing protests there, Republican Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, said U.S. airstrikes against Cuba are an option that has to be explored and cannot be just simply discarded. Sorry, what? It's almost as if the CIA didn't try to assassinate Fidel Castro more than 600 times, as if the Bay of Pigs never happened, as if the United States hasn't spent the past 6 decades imposing a crippling embargo on an island of 11 million people, a policy that the rest of the world is totally against. Last month, 184 countries at the United Nations General Assembly voted to end the U.S. embargo on Cuba. Only 2 countries voted to keep it, the United States and Israel. Look, our record across the rest of the globe isn't much better. We're still bombing Iraq and Syria. We're still over a month away from withdrawing from our longest war ever in Afghanistan. And post-war Libya remains a mess. And yet there are people seriously suggesting that we send troops to Haiti? We launch airstrikes in Cuba? Have they lost their minds? Or just their memories? And if it's their memories, well, to quote George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
All right, so something that Jordan Joan P. So I want to help you out here. Let's bring the browser up here. Whenever your dad says that, I would just go find a tablet and go to this link here. I would just get quotes from this guy here, Alexander Hamilton Stevens. He was the vice president of the Confederacy. African slavery as it exists among us, the proper status of the Negro in our form of civilization. This was an immediate cause of the late rapture and present revolution. Jefferson anticipated this as, quote, rock upon which the Union would split. What was the conjecture with him is now realized fact. But when he fully comprehended the great truth upon which that rock stood and stands may be doubted. The prevailing ideas entertained by him and most of the leading statesmen at the time of the formation of the old Constitution were that the enslavement of the African was a violation of the laws of nature, that it was wrong in principle, socially, morally, and politically. However, those ideas, however, were fundamentally wrong. They rested upon the assumption of the equality of races. This was an error. So, literally, like, if you ever have that problem, if somebody's saying that the Civil War was about states' rights, I wouldn't even argue with them at all. I would just go look for quotes from Alexander Hamilton Stevens, put them all in an office file, print them out, and then have your dad read them aloud. That's what I would do. Because anybody that says that is just not being, if they say it's about states' rights, it's bullshit. This was the vice president of the Confederate States and later the 50th government of Georgia. So, yeah. Anyways. Oh, God. So, yes. But this is, again, let's the history these people just ignore, whether it's long-term history or short-term history. Let's watch. I want to watch this again.
When they first met.
Before we say... Growing acknowledgement these days that the teaching of American history, and especially black history here at home, has been bad, incomplete, whitewashed. But our knowledge and understanding of America...
Well, yeah, Jordan P, though, here's the thing. Don't even argue. Don't even talk to him about it. Just have him read those aloud. Just ask him, say, do me a favor. I know that you have done plays and have studied the Civil War longer than I've been alive, but please do me a favor. Will you read these out loud? And then just print at the bottom the guy's name and who he was. Because apparently your dad hasn't been around since the 1860s, but he knows better than the vice president of the Confederacy. But I'm an asshole, and I don't have I don't have a relationship with my mother, so. And I pissed my stepdad off once because, well, Jordan P, don't take advice from me. Don't. I'll tell you a little story. So my stepfather, Gary, is a Mason. And he was a Mason, and we were at a party, and he was going on and on about Barack Obama and how awful of a president he was, and just like, oh my God, so horrible. And I just scratched my head and I said, Gary, I mean, from what I've heard about the Masons rule the world. They're the secret cabal. They know everything. They control everything underneath, you know? They move the chess pieces around. The Masons are it. Why couldn't you do something about Barack Obama then? He wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day. I think that was probably the last time I talked to him. Because after that, I didn't have anything to do with my mother. But, oh my God. Masons are all powerful, you know. How come you guys haven't taken care of that problem? Such an awful president. You can use your secret government, secret society. But yeah. So I want to play some more of this.
America's history on the international stage, and especially with our neighbors to the south, is even worse.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, that's definitely the case. I mean, I didn't even know until recently in places like Brazil, that America has had an awful history of overthrowing governments it doesn't like.
Take Haiti, now in crisis again after the president was assassinated in his home earlier this month. The Washington Post editorial board reacted.
Guess what? There were people that involved with this. Guess where they trained? They were trained by the American government.
By calling for a swift and muscular international intervention in Haiti, led, of course, by the United States military. No mention of the fact that Haiti's first elected president, the leftist priest Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was toppled in a coup orchestrated by Haitian officers, some of who were on the CIA's payroll.
Sounds like the stuff that's going on here too is similar.
Or that Aristide was overthrown again in a second 2004 coup, whose instigators were supported by elements of the George W. Bush administration. Or that
what? Who knew? Who could have known that?
Haiti was militarily invaded and occupied by the United States between 1915 and 1934. Take Cuba. In an appearance on Fox News to discuss the growing protests there, Republican Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, said U.S. airstrikes against Cuba are an option that has to be explored and cannot be just simply discarded. Sorry, what? It's almost as if the CIA didn't try to assassinate Fidel Castro more than 600 times.
Or try to invade Bay of Pigs. Just made
as if the Bay of Pigs never happened. As if the United States hasn't spent the past 6 decades imposing a crippling embargo on an island of 11 million people, a policy that the rest of the world is totally against.
And he's not even kidding. Like, everyone in the UN General Assembly voted to end the Cuban embargo, except the United States and Israel.
Last month, 184 countries at the United Nations General Assembly voted to end the U.S. embargo on Cuba. Only 2 countries voted to keep it, the United States and Israel. Look, our record across the rest of the globe isn't much better. We're still bombing Iraq and Syria. We're still over a month away from withdrawing from our longest war ever in Afghanistan. And post-war Libya remains a mess. And yet there are people seriously suggesting that we send troops to Haiti? We launch airstrikes in Cuba? Have they lost their minds or just their memories? And if it's their memories, well, to quote George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Michael Brooks brought up a great point about American imperialism.
The reason that they would have to crush and reverse the pink tide generally is that all of these leaders across the ideological, from kind of center left to soft nationalist populists to much more socialistic, from Ortega to Lula, they want independence. Mm-hmm. And that is fundamentally unacceptable to U.S. foreign policy and to U.S. corporate interests. And also one of the reasons why Venezuela was targeted so aggressively from the beginning is that Chavez, with things like the CARICOM initiative, which implicate the 2010 coup in Haiti and have implication for the movement that was taking place, a year ago and ongoing in Haiti, in terms of basically, Venezuelan next to nothing interest loans that were there to provide poverty relief and development, getting, misdirected by certain members of the government. That what Chavez did and what Venezuela is even still doing today when they get test kits to their neighbors in the Caribbean was say, not only are we going to use our oil revenues, people don't know Venezuela actually already had state oil companies well before Chavez. So it wasn't even just a question of nationalization. It was a question of using it geostrategically to try to create democratic and development alternatives in the Caribbean and Latin America. And that is the geostrategic reason of the U.S. pressure against those states.
You always have to remember why they do what they do. They want to take shit. That's all it is. They want to take shit.
Fact of the matter is, as you know, and as you said, that Cuba has stood as a beacon of hope against, really suffocation. And during the pandemic, the United States government has intensified the blockade. Trump put 243 new gripping sanctions against Cuba. And so there's been a real social impact of these sanctions, this blockade. At the same time, a wave of the pandemic has kicked in on the island, and there were some protests on Sunday against, the situation. Immediately, the U.S. government said that, yes, go out on the streets and overthrow the government. They attempted to make it into a rebellion. Biden, made a statement saying, go and fight for freedom, fight for freedom. And the Cuban president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, went out on the streets and met people and said, look, we are facing a serious challenge, but let's not convert a social problem into a political problem. And in effect, around the world, there's a lot of confusion because people are saying, oh, maybe the government needs to be overthrown. How casual people are with their language. Maybe the government should be overthrown. Not the 11 million people, but people outside like Biden deciding like the Pope, which government should be excommunicated.
Yeah. Well, they've almost had their way in many countries. So they've succeeded in the Philippines and in Honduras and probably now again in Guatemala. But they have failed in Peru, and they have failed in Nicaragua, and they have failed in Venezuela. But with the weight of the IMF and the Treasury and the printing of dollars and the blah, 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 they have failed to overthrow the will of the people. Hopefully they will fail in Chile as well in the upcoming presidential elections there, and in the rewriting of the constitution to give the people of Chile more of a chance of developing a society more like Cuba, Of course they want to get rid of it because it's, imagine Cuba without having to live under the jackboot of American international financial muscle.
What a lot of people don't realize is that even with an American embargo, Cuba has one of the lowest rates, even lower than the United States, much lower than the United States, infant mortality. They almost every one of their citizens goes to school, has an education. They're for a poor country, they have excellent health outcomes. So, yeah.
Like Cuba has had to since its inception, and like Venezuela has had to for the last 20 years, and like Nicaragua has to, how they have to fight against this huge weight of money pouring in all the time, and also pouring into the mainstream media all over the world, explaining how these countries are communists and they're disgusting and the people are imprisoned and blah, blah.
Well, something I find that, now this is a joke, but I find it spot on when it comes to the American reaction to Cuba.
As a wealthy white person living in Miami, I know firsthand the atrocities committed by the Castro regime. He ruined my family's business, freeing all our slaves, property, and making us work like everybody else. Lift the embargo? What? Just because it's a free market doesn't make it free. Use your brain. If commies got iPhones, then we wouldn't be able to say communism means no iPhone. Look at Vuvuzela, 100 billion dead low. In Cuba, police officers murder you for simply protesting. Oh, that's the U.S.? Well, in Cuba, they torture foreign nationals to get around sanctions and regulations. Oh, that's the U.S.? Well, whatever. Compared to the commies in Cuba, capitalist Haiti is doing great. Wait, this isn't about left or right. This is about human rights, something the United States would never lie about. Just because the U.S. blocks food, medical supplies, and even GoFundMes doesn't mean the embargo is to blame. We have to listen to real Cubans, like Pitbull. And I agree, that island needs Jeff Bezos. Sure, you could Blame both the Cuban government and the American embargo for the Cuban people's suffering, but as American citizens, we only have control over one of those things. It's a lot easier to stop problems over here than it is over there between them and their government. Honestly, the embargo is the perfect example of why helping would only backfire. Castro once said, "You have your hands on our throat, and while choking us, you criticize the way we breathe." The only threat Cuba poses to the United States is showing that a different way of living is possible. When Cuba eliminates homelessness and deems education, healthcare, and dental care a right for the entire population, that's communism. But when the US allows millions to suffer just because they're poor, that's freedom. Did I get that right?
Which one of those do you want to fall in? I thought that was brilliant. And succinct. But I also loved how people will talk about and almost make a religious person out of Nelson Mandela. But at the same time, Nelson Mandela was this is how Nelson Mandela was.
When they first met.
Before we say anything,
Antes de hablar absolutamente de cualquier tema,
you must tell me when you are coming to South
me
Africa.
tiene que decir cuándo viene para Sudáfrica.
You say, no, just a moment.
No, un momentito.
Seguro,
The sooner the better.
And we have had a visit from a wide
Y hemos
variety of
invitado
people.
una gran cantidad de personas.
And our friend Cuba,
Y nuestro amigo Cuba,
which helped us in training our people,
que nos ayudó a entrenar a nuestra gente,
gave us resources to
que nos
get
dio
on with our
recursos,
struggle,
que nos ayudaron tanto en nuestra
trained
lucha,
our people
que
as
entrenó a nuestros
doctors and so
combatientes, a
on.
nuestros médicos.
You have not come to our country.
Cuba no ha venido a visitarnos, usted no ha ido a visitar.
When are you coming?
¿Cuándo viene?
No he visitado a mi patria
I
surafricana.
haven't visited my South African homeland
La
yet.
quiero como una patria.
I love it as a
Quiero por él
homeland.
y por el pueblo.
I love it as a homeland as I love you and the South African people.
If you go and you read that entire speech, he said, I should mention that when we first wanted to take up arms, we approached numerous Western governments in search of help, and we could only talk with the lowest level officials. When we visited Cuba, we were received with the highest authorities who immediately offered anything we wanted and needed. This was our first experience with Cuban internationalism. Even though we took up arms, it was not our preferred option. It was the apartheid regime that forced us to take up arms. Our preferred option was to find a peaceful solution to the apartheid conflict. The combined struggle of our people in the country, as well as the growing international battle around apartheid during the 1980s, made possible a negotiated solution to the conflict. The decisive defeat in Cuto Carnavale changed the status of forces in the region and reduced considerably the capacity of the Pretoria regime to destabilize its neighbors within the country. It is in this context that we find a value. It is in this context that we value our friendship with Cuba very much. When you, Comrade Fidel, yesterday said that our cause is your cause, I know that the sentiment came from the bottom of your heart and that the feeling of all the people of revolutionary Cuba. So it's funny when Americans deify Nelson Mandela after his death, but America treated South Africa like shit. And that's just hashtag facts. But what you gonna do? It's whitewashing. This kind of now we're on the downside, going down, sliding into home. Got a few more left, and these are odds and ends. But this one is another one I found from Michael Brooks, but it's actually on Palestine and not Cuba. But I thought it was too good to pass up.
Occupation and sieges for anybody, no matter who they are.
Are you not concerned about the binary between either condemning Israel entirely
being like also a stance that a lot of like very strong and notorious anti-Semitic people agree with, versus like, seeing this as more of a complex issue where it is wrong what's going on, and that there's also a way to do this that Israel still exists and is supported?
So it's not a complex issue. That's the big thing. It's super simple. There's one group that has enormous power. It's the most powerful country in the Middle East. It's backed by the United States. It acts on another population of people with total impunity and is never held accountable for anything. So there's no symmetry in the relationship, period. And just as like a thought experiment, IDW people, if we know that if somehow a population of Jewish refugees ended up in West Bank and Gaza, and an Arabic government in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv had an open air prison in Jewish Gaza, which they bombed with white phosphorus. They killed civilians indiscriminately, and they had no provisions for medicine. They had an embargo that blocked food, that the electricity wasn't running, that there was an over 48% unemployment rate, life expectancy and malnutrition statistics were horrifying. One of the major policymakers in this hypothetical Arabic Palestinian state said, we need to put those Jews on a diet. In the West Bank, there was another Jewish area where there was a little bit more autonomy, but there was regular Arabic settlements where they pulled up the Jewish farmers' foods. They terrorized them with rocks. The security forces broke children's bones, and they couldn't drive on their own roads. We'd all have no problem understanding what that was. So there's nothing complex about it. The second part of your question, it's a pure asymmetry relationship. And the question is rights or not. So that's it. It's not complicated. The second part of your question, at this point, there's always going to be crackpots who are anti-Semitic who condemn Israel. That's not what drives the movement, particularly in the United States. If you work around most people who are concerned with this issue, it's actually populated with a lot of Jewish people. The real question we have to ask is, why is it that AIPAC is hosting an information minister for Slobodan Milosevic? Why is it that there's relationships between the Israeli government and far-right parties in Europe? Why is it that Benjamin Netanyahu's son is posting borderline alt-right memes? Why is it that Israel is an alt-right state, even though it is from the descendants of the victims of one of the greatest crimes in history? That's a serious question, and that's inseparable from the racism of the project, which goes back to the first part that we have to solve. But thank you. Shalom.
I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And David, he was a dirty commie. That's the thing about when people talk about Israel, I'm just like, I don't support destroying Israel as a nation or wiping out the Jews. But you want to call it a democracy. You want to sit there and say it's a democracy. It's not. It's an ethno-state. It's a religious ethno-state. And basically, if you believe in democracy, true democracy, one person, one vote. That's what it should be. Anything else is not a democracy. When you have certain rules for certain people and certain rights for certain people, no, that's not democracy. Claiming someone's 3/5 of a person is not democracy. You know? But literally, you can't. You want to talk about being canceled? Mark Lamont Hill got canceled for saying exactly that. Mark Lamont Hill lost his job for saying that there needed to be freedom from the river to the sea. A free Palestine from the river to the sea. So, I mean, that's the thing. He said, I do not support anti-Semitism, killing Jewish people, or any of the things attributed to me in the speech. I've spent my life fighting these things. My reference to river to the sea was not to call to destroy anything or anyone. It was a call for justice, both in Israel and the West Bank / Gaza. The speech was very clear and specifically said those things. No amount of debate will change what I actually said or what I meant. But of course, nobody cares. They just canceled him, and he was gone. Now, you can sit there and say he was canceled. He still has a job. So he's not canceled. Anyways. Speaking of being canceled, I wanted to play this.
I think the parallel between the whole like political correctness, anti-PC thing and the whole anti-cancel culture thing, absolutely there are parallels. They're both parts of this reactionary conservatism that's used to delegitimize what minoritized people are saying about their own oppression. So it essentially is a tool of gaslighting where they're manipulating the situation to make sure that people turn on the true victims of oppression and then make people think that they're the victim, saying that, oh, I'm the victim of PC culture or cancel culture. Myth of Political Correctness, a conservative attack on higher education. This book is from 1995. And if you pause to read, you'll see that like we're repeating history. Nothing has changed. Another thing to pause to read. So yes, the branding might be different, but the complaint is completely the same. And it's meant to obscure that they're the ones who are trying to limit speech and create a culture of disposability.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Yeah. ContraPoints is a tool of the right wing, of conservatives. That's just a fact. You can say that, she's a useful idiot or whatever you want to say about that, but it's a fact. Because conservatives, this is just political correctness 2.0. That's all. That's all it is. Anyways, I thought that was amusing. Made me laugh. Oh, and oh my God. So Charlie Kirk, he had this little party, and he was talking about how there were these micro tyrants, and oh my God, check this shit out. Unbelievable.
I'd be the same person in public as you are in private. All I'm asking is for you is to say, you know what? I'm going to put the cost aside, and I am going to stand up against the micro tyrants and the people that
they're like really small people that are tyrants.
Try to do everything they can to infringe on our way of life. Let me tell you about micro tyrant super quick. A micro tyrant is a term that we came up on our podcasts. And thank you guys for listening to our podcast and subscribing. We deeply appreciate that. A micro tyrant is the type of person at Starbucks who has way too much power.
I've got the power. It's like Grayskull, only like it's a Sharpie. What's he going on about?
That no one voted for, that never ran for office, that will start screaming at you because you have your mask one.
Excuse me. I ran for the mayor of this Starbucks. I think if you look on, I think if you look on, where is it that you can become the mayor? It's like a social media app. Oh, I forget what it's called, but you could literally become the mayor. So, you didn't vote for me. Oh my God. These people are so fucked. Yeah, they call other people snowflakes, and this is they are talking about micro tyrants at Starbucks. Oopsies.
Be the same person in public as you are. Tyrant is a term that we came up on our podcast. And thank you guys for listening to our podcast and subscribing. We deeply appreciate that. A micro tyrant is the type of person at Starbucks who has way too much power, that no one voted for, that never ran for office, that will start screaming at you because you have your mask 1 millimeter below your nose. I'll tell you a story about a micro tyrant where I went into a Starbucks in California, and there was like this.
Yeah, exactly. Some random geek in the chat says, and yet microaggressions aren't real, but micro tyrants are.
Ridiculous, arbitrary line, and I reached over to get a straw, and she just comes up to me. She said, "Sir, you are contributing to the spread of the killer coronavirus." I said, literally, because I went 3 inches, and I said to her, I said, "No one voted for you, okay? Like, no, you have way too much power, right?" And there's a deep truth.
Oh my God! So don't go to Starbucks. So don't go to Wendy's. I mean, literally, there's a fucking meme about this. You know, I mean, Jesus Christ. It's literally a meme. Sir, this is an Arby's. Oh my God.
To this, by the way, the more laws, the more rules, the more sociopathic people you need to enforce those rules and laws. And we usually call those people TSA agents, but now, you know, we have all sorts of different, there's some good people that work for the TSA. I have a TSA story I could go through as well, where there's this woman without a mask looking at her phone.
Exactly. David in the chat says, seems like capitalism isn't democratic.
I try to, by the way, you guys should all play this game alongside of me. It's a lot of fun. It's how
they want to talk about the free market working, but they don't like it when the free market works against them. It's literally this. It's this sense of entitlement that the capitalism should only work for them, and if it doesn't, then it's tyranny.
How far can you get to the airport without them telling you to put on a mask? All of you guys, it's really fun. It's really fun. Has anyone actually boarded a plane before? I've heard stories of this. That's awesome.
Literally, this is the kind of immaturity. We're gonna not wear a mask. Watch. Let's see how far I can get. I'm gonna look at my phone and keep my mask off. Let's see how far I can get. That'll be a fun game.
And so try to go as far as you can before they make you try to put on a mask. So we were playing this game with our team, and one of them broke through, and this woman without a mask on, playing like Tetris or whatever they do, right? Passed by.
Tetris or whatever they do. Tetris.
And she then puts her mask back on. She's like, put your mask on or else I'm going to have you arrested. Like, okay, first of all, you have way too much power. Like this whole thing, like that might be a real badge, but you're not deputized in the name of the law. Like you don't have
in the name of the law.
Cups, like, you know, maybe if you have to like pat me down or something, like you got to just scream it. And that kind of goes to this point though, is that when we do not fight on the little thing.
TSA, what does that stand for? They're a fucking government agency.
All of a sudden you have this voluminous style of laws and rules and regulations of then whoever's in charge gets to deem who they're going to enforce against it. You see, I'm not a big rule person. I like.
I'm not a big rule person until a black person is actually burning down something. I mean, granted, Malcolm MLK said that the riots are the voice of the oppressed, of the silenced. Oh, God.
Tightly written rules that everyone can understand, maybe 10 or 12, and that's it. Instead, we have this.
Are those rules from Jordan Peterson, or I'm not sure. What are these rules for life or rules for Arby's? Maybe I don't know.
incredibly complex structure where then whoever's in charge gets to decide who they get to go and punish and who they get to go after.
There's this thing, the sign on the door that you have to wear a mask. That's it. If it says you have to wear a mask, if it says you have to wear shoes, if it says you have to wear a shirt, like literally, I'm much older than Charlie Kirk, and I grew up with no shirt, no shoes, no service. That's communism. I want my freedom.
So I'm not really sure I got on that topic, but nevertheless, so this is a pretty amazing thing that we have here today at Turning Point USA. And
So yeah. Well, Jordan Joan P. I doubt this actually took place as well. They make shit up all the fucking time. That's what they do. That's their shtick. They try to get people as angry and feeling as threatened as possible. And it's while other things that are happening that are truly abhorrent just go by the wayside. You know, I mean, it's just like this is in the UK, but literally they're
guys, this is literally fascism.
They're literally breaking. Journalists could face prison sentences up to 14 years for stories that embarrass the government under plans to reform the Official Secrets Act. Like, this is actually an issue. And the press in the UK, oh my God, check this shit out. Like first I want to tell you.
And third, he had the Telegraph, who he always referred to.
This was the Steve Bannon of the UK. Dominic, I believe it's Dominic Raab. He was the guy that was creating policy in the UK for Boris Johnson. So the person that interviews him here was Laura Kratzberg, I think is her name. She is the head of the BBC News political division. And this is how she covers the story.
As his quote, "my real boss," unquote. So he had those three things all pushing him not to act.
Sorry,
so keep in mind, she is literally a BBC journalist. This is what she's asking of someone that worked in Number 10, which is considered like the White House in the UK. He crafted policy for Boris Johnson.
Prime Minister calls the Telegraph his real boss, you just said.
And the Telegraph, of course, was extremely hostile to doing anything.
So are you suggesting that the Prime Minister of this country calls the Telegraph newspaper that he used to be a columnist for, he calls them his real boss?
Correct.
This is literally a person that works for him. You have to ask. He literally said that. Oh my God. He literally said that. He worked for him. He crafted policy for him. This isn't some rumor or the guy that sweeps the floors on the weekends. He crafted fucking policy. And yet this is the press in the UK. And it's no better in America. They literally have this fucking stranglehold on the truth. And they craft it. It's like a piece of clay. They'll sit there and they'll fucking mold it into whatever they want. And that is manufacturing consent, everybody. And seeing it play over and over and over again in different places and it drives me insane. Jordan Joan P said, I grew up in California. No shoes, no shirt was a common sign at beach areas. No one was like, this is against my freedom so far that I'm aware of. Exactly. And yet you still have these people that unbelievably, that is their attitude. Anyways.
It's a joke?
It's often not to tell the Prime Minister quite how much of what is a joke, but what he should have done is listened to the advice from the data people at that point and acted. He shouldn't have been listening to a bunch of pundits in the Daily Telegraph talking nonsense.
So to me, that was very powerful. But at the same time, it was really shocking how the press in the UK basically said, oh my God, is that true? How is that really true? It's not like that you would say this because you were there. Anyways, I want to go with something. The last few are just things I found interesting. This one's on TERFs.
At the core of every hate movement, even if not directly observable, is anti-Semitism, and TERFs are no different. From my experience in their circles, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory isn't something that I've seen explicitly stated, but traces of it will show through in some of their discourse, particularly discourse that concerns the trans lobby. As part of their whole gender ideology shtick, TERFs will often claim that there's a group of multimillionaires funding pro-trans organizations. And they give a few reasons as to why they think they are doing so. The first of which is because they are apparently in collaboration with Big Pharma in an attempt to create more trans kids and therefore sell more hormones. Or they'll say it's an attempt to erase the civil rights of cis women, or as just part of a larger scheme to push political correctness and silence women. As to what the trans lobby actually means, it just seems to be another buzzword that TERFs use that isn't clearly defined, but it most definitely takes a page out of the white supremacist playbook, in which a secret cabal of elites is covertly funding a sinister agenda on behalf of a minority group. And some TERFs, like Jennifer Billick, will go completely mask off and claim that gender ideology is specifically being pushed by Jewish billionaires. The whole reason I even bring this up is because a new gender-critical book recently was released that a lot of TERFs have been loving. And in the book, the author Helen Joyce claims that the global trans agenda is being funded by George Soros and 2 other Jewish billionaires. So this is the most recent installment in this whole TERF trans lobby thing. So if you think that TERFs are above anti-Semitic dog whistles, they're not.
Here's the thing. Here's what I find interesting. They're claiming that it's Big Pharma. Like, literally, I used to buy, when I was in America, I would just get a vial of estradiol valerate, and it was about $100. And I would use it up to about 4.5, 5 months. It was $100. So, I mean, you're literally talking about something that's less than $25 a month, you know? And somehow Big Pharma just wants to make more trans people so we can give them medicine. Big Pharma. It's like, you're not going to make money off it. First off, you're not making money off trans people and medication. It's stuff that already has generics, and it's you're talking about poor people. Trans people are one of the poorest communities out there, and they still get their hormones because hormones aren't expensive. It's not a big market. If you even think about it a little bit, the absurdity of it is just fantastical.
They're a hate group, and they're going to do what hate groups do, which is pushing the same white supremacist conspiracy theories that have been scapegoating Jewish people for centuries.
Yeah, and this is what she's actually talking about is a book that actually references the George Soros conspiracy of the trans lobby. And you have the usual, I love this because you have people literally on Twitter defending this woman saying, oh, but she's not a racist. I mean, she's not anti-Semitic. I'm a Jew and she's not anti-Semitic. I mean, you literally have people saying that. And when I think about that, I'm just like, that is, I always like to play a video. In fact, I wasn't how to tell someone that they're a racist, I think is what I find it under. Yes. So I'm going to put this up. And you may have heard it before, but I'm going to play it again.
Race, the final frontier. No matter what channel you watch, no matter what feed you aggregate, it seems like everybody everywhere is talking about race right now. And when everybody everywhere is talking about race, that means sooner or later you're going to have to tell somebody that they said something that sounded racist. So you need to be ready and have a plan in place for how to approach the inevitable "that sounded racist" conversation. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. The most important thing that you've got to do is remember the difference between the "what they did" conversation and the "what they are" conversation. Those are two totally different conversations, and you need to make sure that you pick the right one.
This is very vital in any kind of conversation that you're going to have when you're talking about if someone's being sexist or being homophobic, they're being transphobic, all that.
What they did conversation focuses strictly on the person's words and actions and explaining why what they did and what they said was unacceptable. This is also known as the "that thing you said was racist" conversation, and that's the conversation that you want to have. The "what they are" conversation, on the other hand, takes things one step further and uses what they did and what they said to draw conclusions about what kind of person they are. This is also known as the "I think you are a racist" conversation. This is the conversation you don't want to have, because
and this is exactly what's going on in the Twitter sphere when it comes to these people talking about how the author of this book isn't transphobic and isn't being anti-Semitic when putting forth these conspiracies. But if you look at what they said, what they've written, yes, it's anti-Semitic.
That conversation takes us away from the facts of what they did and the speculation about their motives and intentions, and those are things you can only guess at, you can't ever prove, and that makes it way too easy for them to derail your whole argument. And that is the part that's crucial to understand. When you say, "I think he's a racist," that's not a bad move because you might be wrong. That's a bad move because you might be right. Because if that dude really is racist, you want to make sure you hold him accountable and don't let him off easy. And even though intuitively it feels like the hardest way to hit him is just run up on him and say, "I think your ass is racist," when you handle it that way, you're actually letting him off easy because you're setting up a conversation that's way too simple for him to derail and duck out of. Just think about how this plays out every time a politician or a celebrity gets caught out there. It always starts out as a "what they did" conversation, but as soon as the celebrity and their defenders get on camera, they start doing judo flips and switching it into a "what they are" conversation. "I have known this person for years, and I know for a fact that they are not a racist, and how dare you claim to know what's inside their soul just because they made one little joke about watermelon tap dancing and going back to Africa." And then you try and explain that we don't need to see inside their soul to know that they shouldn't have said all that about the watermelon. And you try to focus on the facts of the situation, but by then it's too late because the "what they are" conversation is a rhetorical Bermuda Triangle where everything drowns in a sea of empty posturing until somebody just blames it all on hip-hop and we forget the whole thing ever happened. Don't let this happen to you. When somebody picks my pocket, I'm not going to be chasing him down so I can figure out whether he feels like he's a thief deep down in his heart. I'm going to be chasing him down so I can get my wallet back. I don't care what he is, but I need to hold him accountable for what he did. And that's how we need to approach these conversations about race.
And that is how we need to approach these conversations about anti-Semitism or transphobia or any kind of thing where it when you're talking about marginalized communities, it's just that should be how things are talked about. It's not a conversation about who you are and what you've done. By the way, I also I don't know if I should go over this right now, but So I didn't download this, so I'm gonna see if I can. Oh shit! I think I have my phone in here. Actually, it's on Instagram as well. I'll just play it from Instagram. I had an incident that happened. I don't know if you all saw it, but I did want to talk about it. So this is, and I don't post this because I want you to feel sorry for me or anything. I want this for people that cis people. This shit is what trans people go through all the fucking time. So basically, I just got off work and I forgot my keys. So I had to go back and get them. On my way back, I met this lovely fellow. And he drunkenly asked me if I was a transvestite, which I said, what of it? And he was threatening to assault me until I pulled out my camera and this happened. Actually, what were you saying about me being an American bloke? Go ahead. All the internet's here for you. Go ahead. Now, if you notice the stuff back here in the back, I don't know if I can rewind this. I don't think I can. Yeah. So this is where he threw his stuff down like he was gonna fight me. Go ahead. And this this does make me laugh. One of the largest LGBT audiences on TikTok and on Twitter. Go ahead. Okay, so I lied about having the largest LGBT TikTok and Twitter following, but it is kind of funny how his tone changed once I said that. Also, note what he says, like because he kept following me. What do you got to say? It's about some transphobia. Go for it, dude. Yeah, that's what I thought. I suggest you go away. I'm a homophobe. I'm not a homophobe. And what you didn't, when I stopped filming for a minute, he said, my uncle is gay. I suggest you go away right now and leave me alone. All right. A friendly word of advice to transphobes. Just mind your business. And my God, this is shit that trans people face all the time, and a lot of times it's not drunk assholes. A lot of times it's literally people that are want to assault you. And it's scary as fuck. For a minute there, I literally did. I thought about fighting the guy. Because it does make me so fucking mad. Like, I wasn't doing anything. Mind your business. Just mind your business. Like, I wasn't talking to him. I wasn't looking at him. I wasn't interacting with him. Anything. And he came up to me and it started interacting with me. Like, dude. People think that they have a right to invade your space, your personhood. I mean, just because you're different. I'm just like Jesus Christ. Anyways. But that's what trans people that are like me, visibly trans, go through a lot. David, I don't think he was lonely and trying to share his feelings. Oh boy. But there was a part of me that, you know, I was like, I'm ready to fight because I'm so sick of this bullshit that we have to put up with all the time. But then I thought about it too. I'm right next to my job. If I get into a fight, there's going to be probably get police that get called. And when those, and who knows, he could have had a knife. I mean, there's just a million scenarios. But that being said, I just, why do trans people have to go through this? Why? Why? Why is it anyone else's business? Just move on. Anyways. Yeah, let's look at, I need to play something that's a little more hopeful here. I love this. This was from Malayla.
Why is it that giving guns is so easy, but giving books is so hard? Why is it that making tanks is so easy, but building schools is so hard? We are living in the modern age, and we believe that nothing is impossible. We have reached the moon 45 years ago, and maybe we'll soon land on Mars. Then, in this 21st century, we must be able to give every child quality education. We must work, not wait. Not just the politicians and the world leaders. We all need to contribute. Me, you, we. Let us become the first generation to decide to be the last. Let this be the last time that a girl or a boy spends their childhood in a factory, that a girl is forced into early child marriage, that a child loses life in war, that we see a child out of school. Let this end with us. Let's begin this ending now.
I thought that was pretty apropos. It makes me kind of, I feel like that there's a future beyond boomers and beyond Gen Xers. All right, I want to do one funny before I go.
People, you have to stop calling Chinese girls exotic. We are not exotic. I am not exotic. I am made in China. I'm everywhere. Your underwear is made in China. Your wife's tampon is made in China. Your wife's black dildo strap-on is made in China. Grandpa's butt plug is made in China. I'm like a cockroach in New York. I'm everywhere. I'm not exotic. You are exotic. You are from Kentucky, and you have ankle fat. You are special.
You are from Kentucky and you have ankle fat. You are special. I never thought about it like that, but okay. Okay. All right. If you say so. And I'm sure Grandpa's butt plug did well. I don't even want to think about Grandpa having a butt plug, but you know. That's the show for tonight. That's what I ended with. Anyways, you guys, thanks for coming. Let me have a look. I always do this. Why do I always do this? I need to put it on my my list of things to look at before the show. So today is Wednesday. Yeah, our next show is going to be on the 24th. And then the 28th, which is next week, next Wednesday. Probably not going to be a show. I'll probably do a show on Thursday instead. The reason being is that I work when I'd be doing the show. So I can either do it earlier in the day, which I don't think that would be good. I'll just do it on Thursday. I'll do it on Thursday and then you get me on Saturday. So anyways, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. I'm grateful for you guys being here. And I love doing the show, even with all the drama that went on tonight. And I've got to do something to manually adjust my cameras. But yeah, anyways, enjoy your weekend coming up, and I will see you on Saturday. By the way, if you want to do some, first off, I didn't say it at the beginning of the show because I had so many things screwing up. If you want to join all my Patreon, socials, whatever, you can go to teapartypodcast.com. If you want to be a teabag on the Discord server, you can become a patron at as little as $1 a month and be a teabag. Any of that stuff. You want to find me, if you want to support the show, that's teapartypodcast.com. If you want to do some mutual aid, share your monies with some of our friends, go to charitylinks.page. I don't think that Jonathan can put that in the chat because I think Jonathan's working tonight. But anyways, I see the tea party from my house. Anyways, take care, y'all. Have a fantastic evening, and I will see you on Saturday.
Thank you.